All right. Whoops. So we're going to go over some of the different kind of simple types of joints. Kind of not so, I guess some of them aren't simple, but kind of joints for just kind of putting straight or 90-degree or even 45-degree pieces of wood together. There are a lot of other types of things you can do too with the wood. But first one is just a butt joint with some finish nails. And we'll go more over those later. And this would just be butted up against it, just kind of, and hammered together. And you can see there's sort of, you can see the end grain right there. So it's not the prettiest type of thing. You see I practice nailing a lot on it for demos. So you can sand that down and even paint it, but you likely would still get that different kind of grain to the edge of the wood. Also, you would make sure to glue this type of joint because otherwise it would easily be pulled apart. Okay, so that's just a butt joint. The next one is sort of a miter joint that has, instead of it butted against it so you don't get that grain on either side, the grain flows together, the end grain on either side. And this, instead of so there's a 45-degree angle there to make a 90-degree angle there. And instead of a nail, it has a screw in it. And the nice thing about screws, they hold tighter than nails, but you can also take them apart and back them out and take it apart if you haven't happened to glue it. Of course, stronger would be to actually glue it together. So that's a miter joint. And we'll look at the miter saws, powered and otherwise. Then it all kind of gets crazy. So here's a miter joint in some MDF board, but that has dowels in it. So you can see, it's been sanded around and sanded flat, so you just have wood. Now you can embed the screws, so you don't see those. But what that is, this is all kind of a lap rabbity joint. That's kind of, you get more surface area, glued surface area with this shoulder, but this also has a dowel. You can see the dowel a little bit more clearly than you can in that one. So you can sand that down into it. Make it fit a little better in that one. It's another similar type of dowel joint like that. Kind of gives you a little bit more glued area there in the joint. That's just a miter joint. A finger joint, which takes making kind of a jig and doing some measuring and planning and a couple trial and error. And then you can glue that together, but you get that kind of interesting kind of pattern on the edges, if that's what you're looking for. And then another type of joint is a spline joint. This kind of has a miter joint, and it has this slot. So the miter is cut, and then a slot is cut so that it lines up, so that when you have a spline, get it in there, and glue that all together, that one holds it together and you get something kind of like that. And so those are some straightforward, typical kind of, woodworking kind of joints. The miter joint's probably the biggest popularist. Actually, no, the butt joint's probably used more. But anyway, some of the other things you can do if you want more organic shapes of the sculpture you're making, because those are all flat. You're taking a flat piece of board for this project and turning it into something kind of more three-dimensional, and you want to work on that idea. And that is a process of thinking it through, just figure out how you can transform the flat thing to something three-dimensional. But one way is to cut out layers, and you can do this with clay and slice up a piece of clay into layers and then lay it out on your piece of wood and then cut out the discs and kind of number them, and then you can kind of make your organic form. So you can stack them together, glue them, let them sit and let that glue set, and then you have more of an organic shape. This is kind of boring, but the other kind of thing you can do is a pin like that and pin things together so that you can build things that don't have a lot of connection points. So you're relying on the strength of this one nail and some glue to kind of hold it together. So they're a little trickier, but that can be kind of creating an interesting kind of shape for things. All right, so there's some very basic kind of joints that you could play with. The laminating can be an interesting thing to do, like planning it out and drawing it out and making a plan first. Before you cut your wood, make a plan first.